Hey, welcome to another video. This time I'm going to be going through what is in my bag, what kind of disc I'm carrying right now. And I feel like I'm at a good place with my disc. Like many people who begin in disc golf, I started with an Innova starter pack. I ended up getting an AVR, a Shark, and a Destroyer. The Shark ended up not working out and I gave it away. I think the Destroyer I hated from day one and still don't like it very much. Don't like how it feels. Didn't like how it flies. It was too overstable for me. And I quickly replaced it. The AVR I am maintaining to use because it's an AVR. It works great. It putts. But I have kept my disc selections pretty intentional. I don't want to become necessarily a big collector of discs. I have too much stuff already. I don't want to collect discs just for the sake of collecting them. I want to be very practical about it, and so I think I've done that pretty well. So let's begin with the bag itself. I've been using this Infinite Discs one strap slinger, I think it's called. I think that's the name of this guy. Anyways, I love the color. That was what finally persuaded me to choose it. I love this kind of burnt orange color. And I wanted it to be smaller. I didn't want to get a big pack that I would grow into necessarily because I don't think I really need that many discs at this point, or at least for the near future. And I can't imagine needing like 20, 30 discs unless I wanted to carry a bunch of backups. My arm strength isn't that far. My throwing power isn't far enough where those small differences in discs make a huge difference. So I stuck with that. I was carrying a bag that held like 6 discs, and then I upgraded to that one. It fits about 12 to 13 if I can squeeze it. I'm currently carrying 10, and I could even drop a couple of those that aren't particularly needed. But we'll get to that right now. Let's start with the putters. As I mentioned, I use the AVR. To putt with is what I putt with. I don't throw it at all. I tried a few times. It just doesn't feel right in my hand throwing with it, but I love to putt with it. This is maybe the one that came in that starter pack. That's entirely possible because it's real dirty. And I got purple. Well, actually, no. The starter pack one was a different color. I got purple because when I went to buy like 6 or 7 of them to practice with, purple is the only color they had that many of, so I just stuck with purple. There we go. AVR to putt with, standard AVR. I should mention all the discs pretty much are between 165 and 170 grams. That's where I found I get the intended flight of the disc at, except for 1 or 2 maybe max weight. I don't remember. Or not max weight, but 175. Anyways, the next disc I have is the Ion MVP Ion disc that I recently got. If you follow me on Instagram, you might have seen the video where I opened this and one more. I got this because I wanted to experiment with a couple of discs, and I wanted to try out MVP because I hadn't before, and my favorite pro player, James Conrad, had recently moved over to MVP, and yeah, might as well try it out. I also love how they look. Like the outer rim thing, I honestly don't think it does anything special for the flight necessarily, and I have looked it up, and it seems like people have tested it, have seen that it doesn't really do much in terms of the flight. They claim some like gyroscopic effect. I don't know. They're basically trying to move more weight to the edge, but I do think they look kind of futuristic and cool. So I decided to get this throwing putter because I looked up MVP, looked at what they're good at, and a lot of people said throwing putters, and I'm like, yeah, I don't like throwing the AVR. I've considered getting a more stable AVR that doesn't flip on me. The current AVR I have, again, I don't like the feel of it, and in any kind of wind, it dies. So I got this Ion. I'm not loving it. It still doesn't feel great in my hands. I feel like I'm gonna grip lock it because it's just deeper, or at least it feels deeper. I haven't measured it, but it feels deeper in my hand, so I feel like my finger gets snagged on it. And maybe I'm just not a guy who throws putters. So maybe I just putt with putters. Speaking of which, then, let's go over to the mid-ranges, which I do love throwing, starting with my straightest one, an MD, straight up MD, that I got used at Maple Hill after I played a round in which I lost my buzz. I was throwing a buzz. I loved it. Absolutely loved it. Threw it into a pond on hole number 9, that awesome hole with the kind of peninsula green. It's one of my favorite holes, but threw the buzz on my approach shot straight into the lake. Couldn't retrieve it. Ended up getting it back and then lost it again out in Maine when I was vacationing, and they retrieved it. I literally like left it on the 18th hole for some reason, and they called me, and I'm like, well, I'm not going to, that's like a 3-hour drive. I'm not getting back up there anytime soon. Go ahead and just sell it. So anyways, I lost the buzz, and I've just been sticking with this MD. It flies pretty straight. If I really throw it at full speed, it will become understable a little bit, which is nice, because if I throw it flat, it'll drift over gently to the right. If I throw it on a little hyzer, it will flip up a bit and go straight. It doesn't finish. It finishes pretty flat up and down, so really nice kind of point-and-shoot mid-range. My second mid-range is this disc that the PDGA gave me when I signed up for the PDGA. Maybe it's a bit gauche to use this disc, but I don't really care. It's a compass, and it functions essentially like the MD, except slightly more stable, so I know it's going to finish left on me instead of perfectly flat. It's also not going to turn on me if I throw it too hard or something. So for any kind of approach shot, I'm either pulling out this or the MD. Honestly, usually based on which one I feel just most comfortable with at the time, because they do fly very similarly. I could probably get rid of one of these and it wouldn't matter that much. Final mid-range that I recently got is the Cayman, the Champion Cayman from Innova, and I love it. I thought, what was I missing in my pool of discs? And I thought, well, an overstable mid-range would be nice for kind of touchy up shots where I can throw an anhyzer on the forehand, and it kind of flattens out on me because it's stable. It's not going to flip over. It's just I'm going to swing it around that tree, and it's going to land flat, and that is exactly what this guy does. I love this disc. Maybe of the last few discs I've gotten, this is easily my favorite one. I use it all the time. Love the Cayman. All right, that's the mid-ranges. Then we get to the fairway drivers. I've got this Prodigy F7, which is way like it was supposed to be super flippy. I got it at one point when I lost my Roadrunner. We'll get to that one in a minute. And I went to a store to replace it, and they didn't have a Roadrunner, and I got this because it seemed to have pretty similar stats. This ended up being way flippier than even the Roadrunner. I only use it for rollers. Yeah, it's only for rollers. It does nothing else. If I'm throwing at full speed, I can't make it not roll. That's how flippy it is. I've thrown it on hyzers like this, and then it goes up and flips over and rolls. It's like in a strong tailwind. If I threw it like vertical, it would flip up the flat probably. That's how insanely understable this thing is. So not super practical. I've thrown like 3 rollers in my life. I'm not really good at that. But I have that disc, or in case I get in some real weird wood situation, I need the most understable disc on the planet, I've got it in my bag. So that's that one. Then we go to a disc I absolutely adore. This is my favorite disc for a very, very long time. Maybe it still is my favorite disc. That is the TBird. Like I said, when I got that starter pack, I got a Destroyer. Didn't like it. It was just too fast for my arm at that point, so it'd hyzer out real fast. It would just die off to the left. So I researched a bit. I thought, okay, let's get a slower disc that I can use for my drives, for my long shots. Saw that the TBird was popular, and immediately, as soon as I held it in my hand, I knew I loved it. The grip felt great. It's like the perfect size for my finger. This is the most confidence I have in my hand in terms of how it feels, is the TBird. And it was kind of a stable disc for me. Now I've gotten a bit faster, and so it's a pretty straight disc for me now. If I throw it flat, I know that it's going to go at least 200 feet just dead straight, and then it'll fade off and usually get a decent skip at the end. So it's a pretty stable, straight to stable disc for me, and I just love it. I love it. It just inspires confidence in me. Love the TBird. Then we get to the TBird's meteor brother, the Firebird, that I got because I was having tons of trouble with my forehand. I kept flipping even the T-Bird over. Everything was just flipping over. I couldn't throw anything flat, so I thought I'll just get the forehand disc that everyone thinks is awesome on forehand. I know it's super overstable, and I'm not going to be able to flip that over. I can throw it on Anheuser, it'll flex, and that is exactly what it did. Perils of buying discs on Amazon, though, it ended up coming in the same color as my T-Bird, which is super annoying, and that's why I'm not gonna buy an Amazon anymore. I'm gonna buy probably from Infinite or something. But the Firebird does exactly what it's supposed to. It's super stable. I can flex it forehanded. I can flex backhand. If I throw it flat, it's going to go a little bit flat for a ways and then start fading out and then get a big old skip at the end to the left. So if I need to like skip around some trees or something, it does that. So yeah, I can't really. And also in a headwind, it's the only, until recently, it's the only disc I had that could handle a stiff headwind. Excuse me. Let's go now to the Roadrunner, which is the first distances. I mean, the T-Bird was stable and it was reliable. This is the first disc I got that I felt like I could actually get power on it because it was understable enough that I could throw it and it's not going to just immediately hyzer. It's going to drift over. It's going to get a full flight on me, and I still can do that. I got to throw in a bit of hyzer now. If I throw in a little bit of hyzer, it'll flip up, it'll start drifting, and I'll get a good flight on it. I can juice it pretty far. If I throw it flat, it's going to turn and going to drift over, so I can do these kind of long, slow turns with the Roadrunner, which I love. If I really want to crank it on Anheuser, I guess I could turn it into a roller. But I'm not, again, I don't throw that many rollers. Maybe I need to start working on those. But the Roadrunner is understable but reliable for me. I know exactly how understable it's going to be. It's not going to get wily like that F7. And I really use this disc a lot, especially in woods holes where, like, it depends. Some days, like, you feel better on a flat release. Some days you feel better on a hyzer release. And so if I'm not feeling like I can lace the T-Bird through a tight backhand gap flat, I grab this one, throw it on a bit of hyzer, and make it flip up, and then I get that same kind of straight flight for a good distance. So I really like the Roadrunner quite a bit. Next is the other. Now we're getting to the distance drivers. The other disc I got from MVP, the Photon. I always have to look because it's they have like proton plastic. This is neutron plastic, but I can never remember if it's the proton that's the disc or the proton that's the plastic. This is the disc Photon. And I got this to kind of fit, again, because I wanted to get a couple of MVP discs, and I wanted something maybe that fits in between the T-Bird and the Firebird, something that's not so meat hooky, that'll go a long ways, but is solidly stable so that I can throw into headwinds and I can throw a forehand super reliably, knowing that it's going to be stable and not flip on me. And it's done a good job. I maybe don't need it because I have those other two discs, and now I'm getting my forehand back under control, but I like how it looks. I mean, it's just a cool looking disc. I like the way these MVP stamps look with the black rim and everything, and I'm enjoying throwing this disc. I think it does what I bought it for, so that's probably sticking around in the bag. And then finally, we get to maybe my favorite disc right now, the Shrike. I absolutely love this disc. It is the farthest throwing disc in my bag. I like how it feels better than a destroyer, and it just goes far. If I throw it flat, it'll turn over a bit, it'll come back, I'll get a long flight out of it. It's pretty reliable. I've had a little bit of squirreliness on the forehand that I think that Photon will give me more confidence on. But on the backhand, if I got to throw it far, or even on pretty long straight shots, if I want to really go for it and I'm not feeling the T-Bird, I want to get a bit more distance on it, I'm gotten pretty comfortable with the Shrike. Also, my favorite stamp. Like, that stamp looks so cool. Yeah. That guy, the robot birds on him. And I'm not a big stamp guy. I'd be fine with some plain words or whatever. But, yeah, this one looks awesome. So I always have a couple of Shrikes ready to go. It's my main distance driver. maybe the disc I throw the most, other than obviously the putter for putting. But for full throws, it's probably the one I throw the most. So that's where I'm at. I don't think I really need any more discs right now. I feel really good about my bag. I probably could if I had to pare it down, I'd get rid of the MVP discs, and I would get rid of the F7 because I don't really throw rollers. But other than that, everything, and one of those mid ranges if I had to pare it down. But honestly, everything kind of has its purpose. There's nothing that I need to throw that I don't think one of these discs could do. It's obvious. It's going to be on me. It's a matter of execution. But I can throw understable, overstable at pretty much any range with any type of disc. With what I've got, so it's working out for me. I know in ball golf, since I've been playing that for much longer, I know a lot of people get into the cycle where they're constantly blaming the equipment, and they're always on the hunt for new equipment, the best clubs, and they always think the next new club is going to save them, and it never does. It's just a problem with their swing. And for disc golf, I assume there's probably similar attitudes, and I know that right now it's not the disc. I've got the disc. They can do what I want them to do if I throw it right, so I just got to practice throwing them right. And yeah, if you think of anything that maybe I'm not thinking of that I might want to have in my bag, leave a comment below. But I think I'm pretty solid, and I don't need a million discs in my bag, so which makes it nice to carry, lighter to carry at some of these hilly courses. But leave a comment, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. Thanks for watching, everybody. See you next time.